All right, and one of those coins that we were tracking, it was Aloe. Right here, remember, I mentioned that we need to be extremely careful with Aloe. And that is because the third one was the charm. If you guys remember, I traded it here. That was the trade that I took. I was not able to tell you because as soon as I jumped in, it blew up. All right. Then the next one we did plan for this one. And despite we had to wait just a little bit more in here, and guys, really quickly, this is for the new members. Where do we know when to enter if we're ranging? All right. So remember that we have two kinds of retracement. All right. Or retracement over price, which is just when the price retracement goes down. All right. And the retracement can be retracement down or retracement up, depending on where the main movement happened. For example, in here, when it's coming down, the retracement was up. All right, and when it was overall coming up, the retracement was down. All right, depending on how many candles and the movement that you're measuring, the retracement is to the opposite side of the main movement. All right. So really quickly, well, we come down all the way down here, and let me show you with lines, with a vertical line really quickly. Look at that where we were at that moment. Let me make this one bigger, 30. So we were below the zero line, not making a flip of the ribbon, and not quite there yet with any reversal or anything. So despite we ranged, we were bearish on the chart. So there's no point for us to jump into a trade when we're still bearish. So what happens a couple of candles after? Let's go over here, for example. And right there, we had a bearish goose head. Usually, if you guys recall how the goose heads work, they are a farther move to the downside, little retracement, bigger move to the downside, and then bigger retracement. Right, so we were still bearish. In this case, the goose head did not play it out. I mean, yes, we moved just a little bit lower, right? But still, it did not play it out just like normal inverted goose heads, right? But that's fine. We still don't buy. And then look at that candle. What every newbie jumps in and then they get wrecked. And that's because they haven't waited for the correct spot. And what is the correct spot? Well, first of all, we want to wait for the correction over time. All right. So that's the key. Both either correction over time or correction over price. So first, we already have seen the correction over price, which happened right here. It went down, right? And then we see that we're making a range, which means we need to wait. That's correction over time, waiting. Right? So we need to wait for then our oscillator to start becoming more bullish. And second, not to break big support zones like in this case, the dynamic reactor, right? So that's why sometimes it's very difficult, psychology wise, talking about correction over time, because correction over time is just waiting for the indicators to start turning back bullish and give us the heads up, right? So there we go. It's cooking, it's cooking, it's cooking. Right here, we have a pump for everybody to jump in, and then they dump it on your heads. That's not cool, right? And we need to understand that crypto, especially, it is a manipulated market. So we need to be extra careful. And then what happens? Look at this purple line. We keep going, and right there, one candle after. Let's go ahead. Let's do it like that. There we go. Look at that. We are starting to turn up green. All right, that's when we open up wide eyes. So hey, look at that. The oscillator already had the flip of the ribbon, right? So the ribbon, it's flipping up. So it's turning back around, all right? That's not guaranteed, but still it's a good beginning. Then the ribbon is turning green, right? And then the decisive factor, and this is extremely important, guys, because the oscillator turning green will basically don't work without this piece. It's your money flow. You need good money flow. So what's money flow? First of all, it is this wave, this green wave right here, and this red. So as you can see, it goes red because the money is rushing out. And then when it crosses a threshold, money rushes in, and we have a steady supply of money. So seeing that steady supply of money, well, that's why the retracement over price stopped. All right, you see that? So we turn green. We do have a steady supply of money. Therefore, I would adjust one more candle. There it is, pushing up. And before we get all too excited, all right, before we get all too excited, let me give you a heads up in here. I took this entry knowing that I was taking a lot of risk, right? So I was front running my indicators. Do I have enough? Yes, barely enough to take. What would I rather have? All right. I would rather have, there we go, my oscillator breaking through that zero line right here. So it would have been okay for me to enter. Oh, I can unmove it. That's fine. To enter just a couple of candles after. But what happens with Aloe? All right, look at the volatility that we had before. I mean, this was pretty okay, and then boom, this movement to the upside. All right, look at how volatile it is. So, trying to prevent that, knowing the risk that I was taking, and that's important. If you want to take the risk, you need to accept the consequences. All right. So that's exactly what I did, and this time played out very nicely. All right, so we did broke above that zero line. And for myself, it was two factors in here. The one that I already have shown you, turning green and having a steady supply of money with green money flow stable. That was the key factor. All right. So there we go. We have our secondary trade. And I'm going in depth with this because today in this class, we're going to be seeing a lot of this. All right. And I want to make sure that you guys are getting how to both use the indicators. And remember, tonight we have the Japanese carry trade. So most likely we are going to have first retracement over price action. And then throughout maybe 2 or 3 days, we're going to have retracement over in time. So I'm preparing you guys for the worst case scenario and to know when to enter. All right. So, by the way, what's up, Gare? Shout out to Gare. How's it going, my friend? Welcome, welcome. All right, so guys, if you have any questions, leave them in the chat to my right, and let's continue. All right, so that's what happened on retracement over time. The 3 points that I was looking for, how I front run it, and also if you didn't want to run it, where was your entry? Just a couple of candles after, right? So we have our secondary entry, very nice. The third entry was in here as we had look at that flip of the ribbon, maybe a little bit late entry on this candle to grab this last pump. But for me, it was just too fast. I was not able to catch it, all right? Therefore, well, I just let it go. There's no point to keep banging on my chest. If it wasn't for me, it wasn't for me. There's going to be always another chance. And on this class, if you guys remember, I believe it was on Monday too, we were talking about the third possible entry. There you go. So I was looking for an entry right here as it came down. All right. And very important, I was looking for that possible flip of the ribbon. So I went in here thinking that this would have bounced. So I did again front run the indicator. All right. Guys, I know I keep showing you how I front run the indicators. All right. Remember, I have years of experience with this indicator and I know the risk I'm taking. If you are a beginner, or you don't feel comfortable front running them, please don't. All right. Please don't. Nonetheless, when I show you what I'm doing here, I did highlight the risk of it. So what would have been a better entry? And if you are here as a beginner or you're just getting started with the indicators, what would have been a better entry for this trade? It would have been right after the flip of the ribbon, turning green. There it is, and then breaking through. So basically, your next entry would have been almost at the top, right there, because of the way that it moved. All right, and you're taking profit. We already have set it at 0.4794, taking 70% out. Would you be making money? Yes, of course. But look at how fast and volatile it did moved. All right. So knowing that out of Alo, that's why I take this risk on trade. All right. And I will always will tell you when it's a risky trade. So can you explain the Bravo key to declare, please? Ooh, all right, buddy. If you look to your left, I don't think I'm gonna have enough time. It's already 9:27. And Bravo have a set of videos for you to watch. If you are Bravo, are you Bravo? Let me check that out. No, you're not Bravo. All right. So the Bravo kit, it's for Bravo, the Bravo community. So just like Hackers has their own hackers specialty, right? Bravo has its own Bravo things. But I'll guide you and give you the heads up on where the videos are. If you look to your left, you should be able, not 100% sure because I don't think you are Bravo, but you should be able to see a Bravo tutorials. Let me see if I can copy the link, and then paste it here for you. Paste it. There it is. Let me know if that shows as blocked because remember, it's a community dedicated. Nonetheless, what it's available, and we can touch on the Bravo kit tomorrow, all right? Just because of the time that I have. Um, it's on the docs, all right? So let me go over here. So docs.chartprime.com. If you go to the docs, you go to settings, and then to your left, somewhere right here, there it is. It says influencer kits, and you see the J Bravo kit. And this is where it explains. All right. Let me copy this just right on the right page, all right, and paste it here. Let me speed through the indicator, I mean the trades that we got from this last weekend. And I'm gonna try to make a little bit of time to give you the introduction of it, just to explain roughly what's happening with the Bravo. All right, with the Bravo kit. There it is. Also, very important. There are several Bravo kits. All right, so we have updated them. So we have 2023 Lifetime Bravo Pro, Bravo Kit Pro, and also we have 2025 Special Kit. And those are for the Bravo users that had clicked the J Bravo link to get the J Bravo's lifetime deal. All right. So if you see somebody talking about it and you cannot see it, that is because that was a Bravo exclusive. So just so you know, Bravo takes every year, makes a collection of his indicators and new strategies that he gathers and develops throughout the year, all right, and creates an update. And he uses that update. Very important. If you are a lifetimer and want to upgrade to Bravo, when the lifetime is available, you can upgrade just for the difference in price to get the Bravo kit. Why is that? That is because J Bravo does the work and we help them put it in within his setups or within his indicators. So we actually don't get, we just get a commission out of the sales, right? We don't really make the bulk, and that's because J Bravo does the work, creates the indicator, we finalize it, we integrate it, we revise it, we just do the back end, right, of it. So that's a little disclaimer. And also, if you're looking to get any kind of lifetime, I would recommend starting with a traditional Black Friday 99 or $999 lifetime. And then if you like it, if you're okay with it, and then you see new updates, well, then you can always upgrade every single Black Friday. Right. Also important now that we're talking about lifetiming, every lifetime gives you the lifetime premium. If you get the lifetime premium, that locks down whatever you get that lifetime premium, if that makes sense. All right. And from there, any and all updates on that series. So you get Chart Prime Pro, right? And all of the updates on Chart Prime Pro. If we develop or if the influencers develop any other new indicators, those are not updates. Those are out of the lifetime plan. You pay for what you get on that lifetime plan and that lifetime bundle. All right. And that's why we make it so if you have an older lifetime and this time you want to get whatever is offered, well, you just pay the difference and then that's integrated lifetime to your lifetime membership, if that makes sense. Just a couple of questions now that we're touching on that. Sorry for the long commercial, but let's go over really quickly over what were we? Aloe. All right. So on Aloe, we hit the target spectacularly right here. As you can see, it hit it right there. I took my profits, run, and as you can see, I did took 70% out. And then I got stopped out right here on my entry with 20%. And still, and very important, I always leave a 20% moon back, right? And another important thing, let me see, as soon as I'm breaking and moving, so right as I see this huge candle right here, I move my stop to entry. When it comes back down, it takes me out at no loss. All right. I just leave it like this so we can come back and see where my stop loss was at the time, just for the class purposes. All right. So that's what I got right here on Halo. Let's go over where we had Pepe. All right, Pepe, it's getting into the resistance in here. As you can see, it ranked on my time at 4 a.m. 54. All right, so I was asleep. Basically, no way to take that trade at all. And well, we're turning bullish on our money flow. Be extremely careful because if I turn on my indicators in here, you'll see that we are right on a resistance. We have a loud order block. Yes, that loud order block is highly bullish. But also remember that the bearish part is acting as a resistance, which means yes, and absolutely yes, it's going to retrace. How big of a retracement? 18% out of the 100. All right, strength of retracement. Can we calculate the retracement? No, we cannot calculate that because remember, if anybody just decides to close their position or reverse it or they decide just basically remove their or close their position, well, that position gets closed and there's no way to predict also the snowball effect, which is the FOMO or the food. All right, so basically we cannot calculate how far down or how big of a rejection that would be, but we can absolutely speculate is that look at we have a trend line right there, we have another trend line right here. So if we have broken and we have a resistance and an order block, well, I'm speculating that it's not about the breakout, it's about the retest, my entry as I keep going on the green, maybe creating a goose head and then breaking through into my next smart money area entry. It's not about the breakout, it's about the retest and then continue for the a big retracement. What am I finalizing with a big retracement? Because we're bearish, guys. We are not bullish still, all right? And what defines bullish and bearish for me, and you can have any other perspective, but for me, it's going to be Bitcoin. So talking about Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin, we are right on the dynamic reactor we were expecting. If you guys remember, we have 3 charts of Bitcoin, all right? And just so you guys remember, right, it doesn't catch you off guard, I'm going to show you those 3 charts, all right? The very first chart, it was this one. So we had a triangle, and we were looking for any of the two, either breakout retest continuation to the dynamic reactor, or rejection, breakout retest, and finding new lows. All right. So right now we have hit the dynamic reactor right there, and I'm expecting a little retracement. Important. Look at how I'm always over exaggerating that retracement. And that is to prevent myself for the worst case scenario. Right. And this worst case scenario is for trading, but because going cheaper will be collecting more, not for trading, but for holding. All right. Let's go, Ada. What's up, bro? All right, so right down here, we have a pretty ugly goose heading here with a possible reversal. We are no resistance, but there's also look at your money flow. Remember what happened on Allo? And that's why I went in depth with the Allo trade. All right. And I told you, we're going to be seeing a lot of coins having the same thing. Look at that. Your oscillator is back above that 0 line. All right. The 0 line volume is somewhat stable, right? And money flow is green. So, yes, we are on a resistance and we're definitely going to be bouncing from it, even one candle or something like that. But right now we have the money flow pushing through. So what does that mean? That most likely we're going to break it, break our retest, continuing and maybe coming back down. Important, very, very extremely important. We have Japan carry trade or possible retracement tonight. So If we're able to break through the dynamic reactor today, do expect to break a retest on that dynamic reactor. If we're not able to break through that dynamic reactor throughout the day, oh well, I wouldn't hope too much for a breakout for tomorrow, right? So, but we still need to wait, and not everything is set on stone. So let's go. All right, let's go over a couple of other ones. Let's just go over Ethereum. Ethereum has broken the trend line. Let me clear this up so you can see through. There it is. It has broken the trend line. We're going to the resistance and a possible retracement. Look at that. It's not that we're forming goose head anymore. It's pretty thick, that little neck, all right? And we have the volume, and we are on dynamic reactor. So because of dynamic reactor, I expect that little retracement, all right? So that's what I'm seeing. And finally, let's go over, where is it? Right here, Ethereum, we already have gone. DEX, all right, DEX, we also call it out just almost exactly as ALO. If you guys remember, the third is the term, front running the indicator, all right, on DEX, or was it Dixie? And well, what happened? It did took me out. Let me show you really quickly, all right? And this is important. You're going to get a lot of this, unfortunately, and this is just the way that the market does it. Let me first bring up one of my favorite indicators, the volume bar, the volume profile bar magnifier. And usually that's what I use for my falling knife strategy. If I would have used it exactly, and let's copy that and paste this, and of course unlock it, I would have entered just a little bit below, right? And my stop loss would have been maybe shorter, therefore being able to grab this low. All right, I just did it. What happened? I did enter in the same area. Look at my stop loss. It stopped me out. And then on the way up, after that bullish divergence, flip of the ribbon, I took the entry. Candle close. And then right now I'm on profit. So what am I doing? It already hit my speculation zone. It already has come back around. So I have moved my stop to entry and take 50% out. And then I have no way to lose. Why? Because if it goes below my area, I'm going to be stopped out at 0 loss and already have taken some profit. Do I have a partial loss in here? Yes, but it's already covered with this 50% gain. So I'm basically breaking even on Dixie. All right. And finally, Gare, what's up, bro? Let me know what asset would you like me to explain the Bravo kit, and I'll add it and show you around. All right, if Gare, if you're away, anybody else, if you want to suggest, guys, let me know, and I'll explain the Bravo kit in any asset. Let me you guys know. No one? All right. So any questions anyway? There you go. Sure. All right. Perfect. Let's go for that. Are you talking about the stock, or are we talking about crypto? Oh, I see. All right. Give me your favorite asset. All right. Somebody requested Sure not too long ago, and I was like, yeah, I know that one. For all of you were talking about crypto, by the way. All right, so I'm standing by. What do you guys want? Where do you want me to explain? Bitcoin, Tesla, I don't know. Trade with in crypto. All right, for sure. I'm really looking trading pairs. Let's go, because it will be Sunday for sure. Let's look at Sol. All right, perfect. Let's take a look at Solana. All right, so I have a couple of charts on Solana. Let's go for them. Here they are, and let's try to use the least. There it is. All right, so let's go for this one. And let me turn everything off. All right. And very important, this depends on how you look at charts. On my end, I like to use it with my market oracle. All right. And with one of my dynamic, my market dynamics, which is order blocks and predictive ranges. All right. I'm not gonna put everything in there because it gets a little bit too much. All right. So one of the parts of the kit, it's also the oscillator. All right. This oscillator. So if you guys are related to Jay Bravo or know anything about him, you already know he's very rich. If you don't worry. The dynamic reactor, he calls it the trampoline. All right. Just like I said, it's not about the breakout, it's about a retest. He explained the dynamic reactor as a trampoline with a retest. All right. And then he looks on his oscillator for lows, a lot of green bars. All right. And then highs and a lot of reversal signals at the top. Important. He also used another thing, which is, of course, the kit. So let's go over indicators. All right. Let's go into invite only, and then you'll see this Bravo kit. Important. You will also see special kit. All right. You also see in my charts plus strategy, and you also should be able to see another kit. I think we have another kit. It was, I think, the well kit or something like that. They're not the same. They're pretty similar, but again, every lifetime or every Black Friday, the kit gets updated for whatever he developed throughout that year. All right, since sometimes there's new indicators, that wise it has another name. And if he only update the same indicator, well, that indicator gets updated, and everybody that got the Bravo kit or just the kit, they get that upgrade, if that makes sense. All right. So if you're a Plus member, regardless where you're Bravo or not, you definitely have the kit. Let's turn on that kit. All right. And this is what you're going to see. I'm going to turn off everything else just so you can see it. And here's a common mistake that happens. You see that we have this line, right? And we all love to trade with chunky candles, right? Like this big, thick, chunky candles. Sometimes that's a mistake because you get too immersed in what the candle is doing itself that you forget about the main structure. All right. So first of all, we have the 9 count, and we'll follow along here. All right. So there it is. We have the 9 count. Where's the 9 count? You can read it in here, but long story short, and not absolutely not in depth, it is counting a series of setups or series of candles that tends to lead to reversal. Remember, you use it along with your oscillator, your trampoline, and the bonds, all right, or the bands. So as you can see, despite you have the 9 counting here, you have your flip of the ribbon, all right, and also you're looking for your trampoline, which is your dynamic reactor. So what's happening? We already have the 9 count. We have this shortly after we have the bottom coming out of the band. So you have two ways to enter in here. Either right after the 9 count. So somewhere, let me just clear this up. Let's go. Turn on the trampoline. And basically right after the 9 count, somewhere around here where you have a little bit more of downside, then coming almost breaking even, and then or right after the trampoline. So basically somewhere around here. All right. When remember after breaking out the trampoline, bouncing off it. Also, he explains, not me, coming out of the bands. All right, coming out of the bands after the 9 count. So there's several ways to jump in depending on how much risk you want to take. All right, and finally, you have, of course, the bands. Let's go over those really quickly. You have, candle color. I'm sorry. The candle color that acts upon or like with the 9 count that tells you when we're getting closer to a reversal. All right. So when things are hitting up, this works as a safety device for the 9 count. You will not always have the 9 count because 9 count is based on a candle pattern. If you don't have the candle pattern, but you have maybe the volatility on the candles, you get the candle color. All right. Very important when if you are coming from Bravo. He goes into settings and he turns on both the 200 weekly, 200 daily, and he uses calm colors that overrides any and all of the colors to gray and white so you can see when purple is happening. Let's go back in here. All right, so you can see no purple, no purple, no purple. Here goes purple and no 9 count, but we did have the 9 count trigger. All right, so there's 3 safety devices in here for the 9 count or for the possible reversal. The possible reversal is compound out of possible 3 things. 9 count. If the 9 count is not there, you have the candle color. And if the candle color is not there, you have the 9 count confirmation. Even if there is no 9 count. Because it's typically, all right, kind of like, I don't know, drunk driving on black ice. You are going to get derailed. All right. So is that a law? No, of course not. It is not. But is that highly possible? Yes, it's highly possible. Does that make sense? So we not because we have the 9 count, because it's completely related. Not because we have the 9 count confirmation means that we absolutely need to have the 9 count in there, especially when we are chopping like this. Chops, chop, 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 chop. The candle structure is not enough to do a 9 count, right? But look at that. Catching the bottom, catching the top. Catching bottom, catching the top. Nothing here, but that's fine. Nothing here, but we have candle color. You're even, right? Then catching the top. Catching a bottom, not catching the top, that's fine. Catching a sort of bottom, going up to the trampoline, and then rejection off. All right, and you'll see how well those played out. And do not expect them to go up and down, up and down, up and down. All right, they just appear when a peak indicator happens. And last but not least, let's go right down here. There is the bands. We already have talked about the bands. And let's talk about the Bravo MAs. All right. Let's go over Solana. Okay, very important. We tend to say, all right, you know what? When we zoom in, hey, I have turned on, like this. I have turned on the Bravo 200 days and the Bravo 200 week. All right. They are not there. Even when, let's go to Amazon, moving averages. That's a moving average. This moving. Here is, let's just, oh no, that's EMA. Whatever. Let's just use close enough because they're 200. All right. So style, length of the first 200. All right. Let's click, let's go style, turn everything off. And when you add the 200 EMA or MA, it's right there. But then when you turn on and off, your 200 daily and 200 weekly, they're not there. That is because of a perspective. All right. What is a perspective? This is the 200 EMA or the 200 MA. But since we're on the 4 hours, that is the 4 hour, if that makes sense. What he has done is regardless, and there it is, regardless of what time frame you are, you will always have the 200 weekly and 200, where is it? There it is. The 200, oh no, this is it. The 200 daily and the 200 weekly. All right. So those are right here. So if I go to daily, now look at my EMA. Because remember, this is EMA. This one is EMA. And this was MA. All right. Now they're pretty close, if not one on top of another. Was that first he trades on the daily? I trade in the 4 hours, and it's fixed. So look at how I'm drawing them, and if I go to the 15 minutes, my EMA, it's right down here because this is the 200 EMA, but now EMA 15 minutes. And if I will need to zoom out a lot and look at that. Remember when we draw on top of both of them? There they are. They haven't moved. 200 week MA, 200 week EMA. Yeah, you see that? So depending on how small your time frame is, the farther away the 200 are going to be. Remember, he trades on the daily, so they tend to be a little bit more close together. There it is. And just important, let me just get rid of this, of course. When he trades below the daily, he's looking to get sandwiched in between the EMAs, all right, or I mean the MAs, and then looking to bounce in between the MAs until we hit the trampoline and bounce off of it. Okay, there it is. All right, perfect. So that's everything I got for today, guys. Let's see, is there something when the prime oscillator SRI is in the MVP oscillator are divergence. MVP oscillator doesn't use divergences because it's a different logic, but you can either combine them, and let me show you how could you do that. So I think that will work better with the prime oscillator. So prime oscillator, this is not it. Where's the prime oscillator? Chart by chart prime. Here it is. This is not it. Come on. All right. All right. Let's just use this one. Okay. So I want to change to. Oh no, it needs to be the pro one. Or it would also work with this one. All right. Let's do money mode. Money mode. Make sure the divergence are on. Okay. That will give me just the money flow. And let's see, where's divergence? Oh, it's yeah. So that got removed. And that's because it felt like it was overlapping, but I had a little trick on that, but it will not work anymore. So the only way that we can do it now, it is going, for example, something like let's turn off this one so I can trade far ahead. So money mode. The way that you can maybe work around it would be adding from invite only your prime oscillator, just the prime oscillator pro. This one right here. Let's wait for it to load. Turn everything off but divergences and then drag it on top of the other one. If not, I believe that in the Train Fusion oscillator will also give you the divergences. Let me see if that has updated or not. Let's just wait for it. And no, we changed the divergence for new dots. So yeah, it will only work with prime oscillator. Turn off basically everything. Also in style. Well, you turn everything but divergences, and then you grab it and you drop it on top of it. And that way you will have divergence too on top of that. But yeah, all by itself, it doesn't do it. It doesn't have divergences. Yeah, it doesn't have divergence. You will need to change. And for the Prime Oscillator Pro, you will need to change your divergence size because maybe it's locked. To do that, I'll show it to you right here. Your input, max and min. So if you're looking for bigger divergences, if you did not cut it, just increase your max point. And yeah, that will make that divergence appear, and then you can just let it do its thing. Yeah. Isn't it? You can combine a lot of things like that. Yeah. All right, guys. So it's time for me to go. Thank you so much for joining. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed this. And as always, see you guys tomorrow.